when it comes to child transition surgery, right, we have a split on whether or not that's harmful. Who should I side with? Who should I side with?
The position of that is something that I wouldn't want to get into because... Am I allowed to get my thoughts out?
What about harm?
Yeah.
My harm!
Andr Wilson comes in swinging, straight up obliterating the weak points in secular humanism while standing tall for logic, morality, and common sense. This whole exchange is Andr Wilson versus this guy who's fumbling to defend a shaky worldview that collapses under its own contradictions. Let's immediately dive into this debate between Andr Wilson and this brainwashed atheist.
Let me get this through to you. Secular humanism will not do something that purposely causes harm. You keep saying...
Who determines what harm is?
Can you let me talk?
Who determines what harm is, Craig?
Collective experiences and empathy.
So if collective experience says this isn't harmful...
Collective experiences say that it is harmful, though. That is what collective experience
But what if it didn't, Craig?
But
what if the collective experience of these people says that's not harmful?
But they do, Andrew.
But if they didn't, though?
Right, well, in the same way, what if God said that you could do whatever you want?
What if he did? Answer my question.
Well, but collective experiences don't. It's a logical impossibility. Under the framework...
The unanswer of the first question loses, Craig. Answer my question.
Under the framework of secular humanism, that is a logical impossibility to do, right? I do not have to answer things that will never happen.
Let's start with what does logical impossibility mean?
It means that it's something that is logically impossible as a conclusion.
You can't use the words to describe the words, Craig.
Yes, you can.
What does logical impossibility mean?
It means that it is something that would not come as a result of conclusions of what's happening. If you look at the overall, conclusions of what secular humanism gives, and look at that, the outcome would be a logical impossibility.
My question is, what does logical impossibility mean?
I'm trying to answer. It means that it is something that if you look at the overall conclusions of something and look at it logically, the outcome is an impossibility. If you look at all the conclusions of secular humanism, what it tries to promote, the logical impossibility of locking people up and causing harm comes from looking at those the entirety of secular humanism. You keep coming up with questions of what if they locked people up?
Yeah,
what if they did that?
I just want to make sure we got this right.
It's not something that would happen in secular humanism.
Is Wolverine from the X-Men logically impossible?
Wolverine is from the X-Men, specifically the first.
No. The character, the Wolverine from the X-Men, the adamantium claws, the healing power system, is that logically impossible?
Using Copenhagen's interpretation of quantum mechanics, no.
No, it's not logically. So Wolverine is not logically impossible, right?
It could exist in a number of universes
as
far as we know.
But what is logically impossible is that a bunch of people can't get together and change what the meaning of harm is.
Man, Andr Wilson is being super sharp here. I mean, come on, Wolverine is possible, but somehow redefining harm isn't? That's the whole point Andr Wilson is driving. This guy keeps dodging the obvious. So, I mean, yeah, Andr Wilson is landing punches left and right with this one.
Well, again... But Andrew, you are missing the point of what collective experiences show us. We look at collective experiences throughout the world and we can see what harm is. You are just saying, well, what if they changed what harm is? But as humans, we know what
Craig, what if they change what the meaning of harm is, Craig?
You got 3 words out there, Andrew.
Can you answer the damn question, Craig?
I'm trying to, Andrew, and if you let me, that would be wonderful.
Oh, well, you see, the thing is that without answering the question never gets answered, so we're never going to actually answer the question because answering the question is an unanswered question.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, Craig, but Andr Wilson is literally just asking the same fair question on repeat. It's wild how Craig keeps skirting around it instead of addressing it head on. Wilson's patience here? Man, that's next level.
And what if they change the definition of harm, Craig?
Yeah, Andrew, I'm trying to let me answer the question. They won't change the definition of
harm.
Oh, they
won't?
No.
But Wolverine's logically possible.
So, secular humanism looks at what happens as experiences, and throughout humanity, we can know that locking people up and doing harm is a bad thing because it makes bad things happen. It makes people unhappy. It causes harm. It makes society a worse place.
What about when it doesn't cause harm, like when we lock criminals up?
So the idea of locking criminals up, at least in the decent countries,
does it reduce harm, Craig?
Yes. When you
yes. Wait. So you just saying
locking
people up is going to reduce harm? Well,
Andrew, am I allowed to talk?
Craig?
Am I allowed to talk?
Well, Craig,
am I allowed to talk? Andrew, am I allowed to talk?
Yes, Craig, you're allowed to talk.
Andrew, am I allowed to talk?
Yes, Craig.
Right, Andrew,
but how long are you going to talk?
Andrew, am I allowed to talk?
For how long at once, though?
Okay, so you are being a flat earther here.
You're being an ethical flat earther.
What you're doing is you're not allowing the other person to talk and just laughing and
That's
thinking.
because you want to answer any questions.
I'm trying to answer the questions,
No,
but every
Craig,
time I do,
that's not answers filibuster.
no, you don't understand its answers, Andrew. Maybe because you're not a very intelligent person, but I'm not
One
sure.
day, Craig, I'll get to your level.
Well, so would you like me to answer any of your questions, or are you going to
Yes,
let
I
me
would
get
actually
3
like
words
the
in?
answers. And
What?
here's the thing. I'll make a deal with you. If you treat this in good faith and you actually answer my questions, I'll actually answer yours. But don't filibuster.
trying to.
Hang on. Don't filibuster and don't lie. Simple. Is it not the case that people change what the definition of harm is all the time? And by necessity, they have to do that, Craig, right? You have to change what the definition of harm is. So when you say, Andrew, it's logically impossible that people would change the definition of harm so that you could lock women up to do X, Y, Z to them, that's not actually logically impossible, is it?
Under the tenets of secular humanism, yes, it is.
Then show me where.
Secular humanism is about not doing harm and making
Show me
things
where.
unhappy.
Show me where
Again,
in the humanist document it conflicts with this, since it says we can change our definition of what harm is anytime we want.
But the definition of harm is what it is. We know what harm is.
No, we don't know what harm is.
Yes, we do. Our collective experiences show us harm. If we make people unhappy, if we make people hurt, we make them die, we make them injured, that is harm. And as society, we can get together and say, well, we don't want those bad things to happen. What makes people depressed?
Yeah, but
what makes people... Andrew,
You
I
can
am in
do
the middle
all
of
those
answering your
things,
question.
and it can reduce harm too.
Right.
Right?
Andrew, I will answer your question, but you might need to let me get there.
Go ahead,
to
Craig,
set
go
my,
ahead.
to set
Yeah,
my
go
stage.
ahead, Craig,
right?
calm down.
The problem is that you do not want to hear the answers. You just want your
Craig,
script
stop
to be...
talking.
I'm not going to
Just
stick
get
to
the
your
answer.
script.
Get to the answer. Go.
Right. Do not talk. Let me answer. Because I've let you yap for ages. Good boy. Right. So, doing harm is... Everyone knows what harm is. Everyone knows that harm
No,
makes...
that's what's in question.
See, here we go. I let...
That's literally what's in question, is whether or not
I'm
everyone
trying
knows
to
what harm
lay
is.
I'm trying to lay the foundation for my answer.
Exactly. Andrew Wilson nails it right there. Like, dude, that's the whole debate. What is harm? If you can't lock down the definition, then secular humanism has no solid ground to stand on. Yeah. Andrew Wilson's just methodically pulling this whole argument apart.
If you let me get more than 3 or 4 words out, a few sentences at a time, Andrew, then this debate can happen. But you just want to overtalk me.
I'll give you
right?
a chance, Craig. Go ahead, 30 seconds.
Thank you. Right. So, as a collective, we can get together and say, what makes you unhappy? What makes you hurt? What stops you from advancing as a human? And that is harm. We can get a bunch of injured people together and say, how did that happen? This is harm. How do we stop these things? This is harm. What makes you unhappy? This is harm. And we can look at what makes that happen. You are trying to come up with a situation where harm can just be changed, and we can make harm not mean having harm. But that's not what secular humanism does, because as a society, as a collective as individuals, we would come up with to not do that, to make everyone happy. People aren't going to be happy if we do that.
Kick it
Secular
back to
humanism
Andrew.
wants people being happy.
Okay, then, Craig, I just have a simple question for you. When it comes to child transition surgery, right, we have a split on whether or not that's harmful. Who should I side with? Who should I side with?
The position of that is something that I wouldn't want to get into, because... am I allowed to get my thoughts out?
What about harm?
Yeah.
My harm!
I didn't say I wasn't going to. I would say it's something I wouldn't want to. But again, I'm not allowed to get my words out here. Right. So as a collective society, we would get together and see what happens. And that is going through changes at the moment. Personally, I don't agree with that, right? And the current position within secular humanists seems to be that allowing children to transition is something that causes harm. Right? That is the position that I personally hold when I look at the evidence, and what other secular humanists are saying is that allowing children to transition causes harm, because children are not at a place where they are able to make that decision. Their brain is not fully developed, and especially people with, if we look at neurodivergence, neurodivergents actually have a much higher percentage of wanting to transition and things like that, and that could be an effect of them being neurodivergent. So we have to look at individual cases, but personally, children in transition, because they are not ready to make that decision, their brains aren't fully developed until they're like the age of 25. So letting children do that before they have the ability to is in itself causing harm.
So then what's going on here, is just so you understand, I just demonstrated something very important to you. You said we know what harm is.
Yes.
Our collective experience demonstrates what harm is. Then I ask you a simple question. there's two different collections of people right now. One who believes that this is very harmful, and one, like you, who believes it's not very harmful.
And which one of those are secular humanists?
Which one of those? Well, humanists themselves disagree. Matt Dillahunty, who's a humanist, for instance, is right as we speak, probably sucking lady balls, right? Like that's actually true. So
Matt
hang on, stop.
Matt
Hey,
Dillahunty isn't here, though.
Stop, bro. It's my turn,
yeah.
bro. My turn. Calm down.
I'm
Calm
not
down,
Matt
bro.
Dillahunty.
Calm down. It's my
I'm
turn.
not Matt Dillahunty.
Calm down.
Right?
I didn't say you were.
Right. I'm not going to run away from a debate.
I didn't
because
say you
make some
were. I didn't
insulting
tell you to
things,
run.
okay?
I didn't tell you anything. Calm down.
Right.
So anyway, back to where we were. What I'm saying is, he's a humanist. You're a humanist. Clearly, you fucking disagree about this.
Does Matt?
Stop, bro.
Just ask a quick question. Does he say specifically that he thinks children should transition?
Craig, calm down.
I'm just asking a question.
Craig,
Is that what he says?
Yes, but anyway, calm down.
I don't think that's what Matt says.
Humanists themselves, okay? Humanists themselves disagree.
Which
they
ones?
disagree. Stop, bro. Would you chill out for 2 seconds? They themselves disagree on even what a man is. They disagree on the prescriptions for children.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. And they disagree about all of these things within the very same framework you're talking about. The thing is like, that's fine. You can grant that humanists can disagree. As the peanut gallery was telling you, you can make the same criticism about the Bible. Theologically, people disagree all the time. Totally fair argument. What's not a fair argument is for you to say that it's logically impossible for us to redetermine what harm is under humanism. Of course we can redetermine what harm is under humanism. Why couldn't we? Why?
Because their collective experiences as humanity show us what harm is. And if we look at what has happened in the past with humanity, and we try to change it to go back to when it was harmed, that would go against what secular humanism is. But to be clear, all secular, you are just lumping all kind of LGBTQ stuff as secular humanists. That's not just secular humanists that hold those positions. So you can be someone that
was
is
just a demonstration.
LGBTQ and not be a secular humanist.
I was demonstrating
mix
something,
those two
not
up,
making
okay?
it about LGBTQ. I'm demonstrating that within this worldview, there's disagreement within it. That's fine, right? I'm not making that as a criticism.
But just to be clear, that's not a secular humanist view, though. That's just a human view.
Craig.
At the end of the day, Andrew Wilson comes out looking like an absolute powerhouse in this debate. He stays calm, but he's relentless, peeling back every layer of this secular humanist argument until there's nothing left but contradictions and what-ifs. Andrew Wilson defends objective morality, highlights the shaky logic of relying on collective experience, and makes the other guy look like he's spinning in circles. This was a total masterclass in how to stay sharp and break down weak philosophical positions like a boss.